Jae-hwan lived alone on Gelon 3, a quiet and dusty mining colony far from Earth. The stars above were bright and clear, but the world below was empty and broken. Long ago, a company had built this place to mine rare metals, but the company failed and left. Only a few people stayed behind. Jae-hwan was one of them. He was a human engineer, good with machines and tools. Every day, he worked to fix broken equipment, power lines, and old machines. The colony was falling apart, but Jae-hwan didn't complain. He liked being alone. He didn't need much, just his tools, quiet days, and the stars. One evening, he walked outside the colony walls to fix a broken communication relay. The wind was dry, and the ground was covered in orange dust. The sun had set, and the night was coming fast. He carried a small lamp and a repair kit. As he reached the old tower, he noticed something strange nearby. There, lying in the sand, was a figure. At first, he thought it was a damaged robot. But as he came closer, he saw that it was a woman. Not human, but something different. Her skin was silver, almost glowing in the dark. Her clothes were torn and burned. She looked weak, hurt, and very tired. Jae-hwan looked around. No ships, no footprints. She had come here alone. He knelt beside her and said, "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slowly. They were large, glowing faintly blue. She tried to speak, but her voice was soft and dry. "Help, please." Jae-hwan didn't know who she was or where she came from, but he could see that she was in danger. He picked her up carefully. She was tall and light, almost like she was made of air. He carried her back to his small living quarters in the colony. Inside, he laid her on a soft bench and gave her water. She drank slowly, still weak. He checked her wounds. Nothing too serious, just bruises and cuts. Her body was strange, but not scary. She didn't look like a soldier or a threat. After a while, she spoke again. "My name is Nereva." Jae-hwan nodded. "I'm Jae-hwan. You're safe now." Nereva looked around, confused but calm. "This is a human place." "Yes, a forgotten one," he said with a small smile. She closed her eyes, resting. For a while, neither spoke. The room was quiet, except for the hum of old machines. Then she said something that surprised him. "They are chasing me. I ran away. If they find me, I'll die." Jae-hwan frowned. "Who?" Nereva opened her eyes again. "The Virelan Empire. I was supposed to marry someone important. I said no. I escaped." Jae-hwan didn't know what to say. He had heard of alien empires before, but he never thought he'd meet someone from one. "And not like this." "I can't go back," she said. "I came here because humans protect people. I read that. If I marry a human, I can stay. I can be safe." She looked at him with eyes full of fear and hope. "Please, will you help me?" Jae-hwan stared at her. He was just a simple man, an engineer on a forgotten world. He didn't expect this. He didn't know what to think. But deep inside, something told him this was important. Something was about to change. Jae-hwan sat at the small table in his room. Across from him, Nereva drank warm soup from a metal cup. Her silver skin looked better now, and her eyes were brighter. But she was still weak, and her hands shook a little. Jae-hwan watched her carefully. He still didn't know what to do. After a long silence, she spoke again. "I know this is strange," Nereva said quietly, "but I had no other choice." Jae-hwan leaned back. "You said they were chasing you. The Virelan Empire." She nodded. "Yes. My people live by rules. We don't choose who we marry. We are told. I was supposed to marry a high leader, someone old and cruel. I refused." "What happened?" he asked. "They called me a traitor. They said I would bring shame. I escaped in a stolen shuttle and came here. I didn't know if I would survive. I just ran." Jae-hwan rubbed his forehead. And you think marrying a human will protect you? Yes, she said. Your law gives asylum to alien spouses. If I marry you, I can stay. The Virellans won't be able to take me back without starting a war. They won't risk that. Jae-hwan looked at her in disbelief. You want me to marry you? Just like that? I know it sounds strange, she said, her voice shaking. But I am desperate. I don't want to be someone's prisoner. I want to live. I'll do anything. He didn't answer right away. He stood up and looked out the window. The desert outside was quiet. No ships, no noise, just the stars. I'm not the kind of man who gets married, he said. Nereva stood too, her voice louder now. I'm not asking for love. I'm asking for safety. I have skills. I can work. I know languages, machines, alien systems. I can help you. Help the colony. This doesn't have to be real love. It's just survival. Jae-hwan turned around. Her eyes were full of emotion. Fear, pride, and something else. Hope. I don't know you, he said. I don't know you either, she replied. But I know humans care. I read about your history, about your kindness. That's why I came here. He sat down again. His heart was heavy. He didn't want to be part of some strange alien problem. He liked his quiet life. But now, this woman was here, asking for something big, asking for protection, asking to be his wife. He looked at her. She stood tall, even while afraid. She wasn't weak. She had risked everything to escape. That kind of bravery meant something. All right, he said at last. I'll think about it. Nereva gave a small nod. That's all I ask. Later that night, Jae-hwan couldn't sleep. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. In the next room, Nereva slept on the bench, wrapped in a blanket. He could hear her breathing, soft and steady. He thought about her words, about the fear in her voice, about the courage it took to run. He also thought about what marriage meant, not just to humans, but to him. Could he really do it? And if he didn't, what would happen to her? Morning came. The sun rose over the red desert. Jae-hwan walked into the kitchen. Nereva was already awake, sitting at the table, waiting quietly. He looked at her and said, "Let's talk." About the marriage. Jae-hwan sat across from Nereva at the table again. The sun was rising, casting soft orange light through the window. The room was quiet. Jae-hwan rubbed his hands together. He still wasn't sure about any of this. So, he said slowly, you really want to do this? Marry a human you just met? Nereva looked him in the eyes. Yes. I have no other way to survive. But marriage is a big thing. It's not just papers and rules. At least, not to humans. I know, she said. And I don't ask for your love. I ask for your kindness. Jae-hwan leaned back. You said you can help the colony. How? I know how to repair alien machines, she said. I can read many languages. I studied energy systems. I can help you fix this place. He raised an eyebrow. You're an engineer. She smiled a little. More or less. I learned from many teachers. Virellan schools are strict. They train you for your role in life. I wasn't supposed to fix machines, but I wanted to learn anyway. Jae-hwan nodded. That part, at least, he could understand. So you disobeyed their rules, ran away, and now you're here. Yes, she said softly. I chose freedom. Jae-hwan stood up and walked to the window. The desert outside looked peaceful, but he knew that wouldn't last. If the Virellans were hunting her, they would come. He turned around. If I do this, my life will change. People will ask questions. The colony will gossip. Some might not like it. I understand. And it's dangerous. They might send bounty hunters. Maybe even soldiers. I know. He looked at her again. She didn't look scared now. She looked ready. You're brave, he said. Nereva gave a small smile. I had to be. Jae-hwan sighed. I didn't plan for this. I was happy just fixing machines and living quietly. But maybe it's time to do something different. He sat back down. All right, let's get married. Nereva's eyes widened. Truly? Yes, but we'll do it properly. We'll go to the colony's admin office, register the union. After that, you'll be under human law. No one can take you without permission. She bowed her head slightly. Thank you. Jae-won felt nervous. He had just agreed to marry an alien, a stranger, but something inside him felt right. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was the right thing to do. Later that day, they walked together to the small colony office. It was dusty and half-broken like everything else on Gellin 3. The clerk looked surprised when they asked to register a marriage. She's not human, the clerk said, confused. She's my wife, Jae-won replied calmly. That's all you need to know. The clerk shrugged and filled out the form. A few minutes later, it was done. Jae-won and Nereva were now husband and wife, at least on paper. As they left the office, people stared. Some whispered, but Jae-won didn't care. Nereva walked beside him, quiet but calm. That night, they sat together outside, watching the stars. Jae-won handed her a warm drink. She accepted it with a small nod. Thank you for trusting me, she said. Jae-won looked up at the sky. I don't know what's coming, but we'll face it together. In the still night, under the endless stars, a human and an alien shared silence. Two strangers, bound by a simple choice, a choice that would change everything. Days passed after the marriage. Jae-won and Nereva lived together, but their life was not easy. At first, they barely spoke. Jae-won was quiet and careful. Nereva tried to stay out of his way. She spent most of her time learning how things worked on Gellin 3. She asked questions about machines, power systems, and even human food. Jae-won answered when he could, but he didn't know how to treat her. She was his wife now, but they were still strangers. People in the colony noticed. Some stared when they walked by. Others whispered behind their backs. A few even laughed. Did you hear? The engineer married an alien. Must be for money. Or maybe she's a spy. Jae-won ignored them. But deep inside, the words bothered him. He had lived here for years, helping fix everything. Now, people looked at him like he was strange. One day, while fixing a power station, he turned to Nereva. You don't regret this. She looked at him calmly. No, do you? He paused. Not yet. Nereva smiled. It was small, but real. It was the first time he saw her smile. But peace didn't last long. One night, alarms started ringing. Red lights flashed through the colony. Jae-won jumped out of bed and ran to the control panel. Nereva followed. What's going on? She asked. Jae-won checked the screen. Unidentified ship. It landed outside the East Ridge. Nereva's face turned pale. They found me. Jae-won grabbed his tools and a small energy pistol. Stay inside. No, she said. I'm coming. They reached the ridge and hid behind rocks. A small black ship sat on the sand. Two figures stepped out, tall, armored, and fast. Their helmets had red visors, Virelin bounty hunters. They want me alive, Nereva whispered. But not you. I'm not letting them take you. The bounty hunters moved toward the colony wall. Jae-won and Nereva had no time. He pointed to an old mining machine nearby. If we can power that drill, we can trap them between the rocks. I can rewire the drill, she said quickly. But I need 2 minutes. Go, Jae-won said. I'll distract them. He stepped out and shouted, Hey! The hunters turned. One of them raised a weapon. Before they could fire, the ground shook. Nereva had started the drill. Huge rocks rolled down the ridge, blocking the hunter's path. One got caught. The other tried to run, but Jae-won tackled him from behind. It was messy. Jae-won wasn't a fighter. He took a hit to the face. But he didn't let go. Finally, Nereva hit the hunter with a shock tool, knocking him out. They stood there, breathing hard. Dust filled the air. "You okay?" Jae-Hwan asked. "Yes," Nereva said. "You?" He wiped blood from his lip. "I'll live." Later, the colony guards came and took the hunters into custody. They confirmed the men were from the Varellan Empire. Everyone now knew Nereva was not just any alien. She was a target. The gossip changed. People didn't laugh anymore. Some looked at Jae-Hwan with fear, others with respect. Back in their room, Nereva placed a hand on Jae-Hwan's arm. "You saved me," she said. He looked at her. "We saved each other." That night, they didn't sit in silence. They talked. About machines. About stars. About the life they once had. And the life they now shared. Their marriage had started as a way to survive. But now something real was beginning to grow. After the attack by the bounty hunters, things changed between Jae-Hwan and Nereva. They were no longer just two strangers with a marriage contract. Now, they were partners. They had fought side by side. They had protected each other. The people in the colony also changed. Some were still cold, but many now respected them. A few even came to Jae-Hwan with kind words. "You did a brave thing," one worker said. "She's lucky to have you," said another. But Jae-Hwan didn't feel like a hero. He still felt unsure. He still wondered what would happen next. Would more Virellans come? Would the marriage be enough to protect her forever? He didn't have answers. One evening, after a long day of repairs, he returned home tired and dusty. Nereva was in the kitchen, trying to cook. The smell was strange, something spicy and sweet at the same time. He raised an eyebrow. "What is that?" Nereva smiled. "I'm learning to make human food. I read about a dish called jjigae. I think I got it wrong." He laughed for the first time in days. "Let's find out." They sat together and ate. It wasn't perfect, too salty, a bit burnt, but they both smiled through every bite. After dinner, they sat on the roof of the small building. The stars above were clear and bright. The air was cool. "I used to look at these stars and feel alone," Jae-Hwan said. "Me too," Nereva replied. He turned to her. "Why did you really come to a human colony? You could have gone to other planets." Nereva thought for a moment. "Because humans are different. Virellans see emotion as weakness, but humans, you care. You fight for freedom. You protect the weak. I wanted to believe in that." Jae-Hwan looked at her. "You still believe it?" She nodded. "Yes, because of you." He didn't know what to say. His heart felt strange, warm and full. He hadn't felt that in a long time. As the days passed, they grew closer. They worked on machines together. Nereva helped improve the power grid. She added alien tech to make things run faster. The colony became stronger. People started asking her for help, not just Jae-Hwan. One night, while fixing a broken water pump, their hands touched. Neither pulled away. Later, back in their room, Jae-Hwan sat quietly. Then he said, "I know we married to protect you, but now it feels different." Nereva looked at him. Her voice was soft. "Yes, I feel it too." They didn't kiss. Not yet, but something passed between them, an understanding, a beginning. That night, Jae-Hwan couldn't sleep. He thought about everything that had happened, about how his quiet life had changed, about how Nereva had changed him. She wasn't just someone he had to protect. She was strong, smart, brave, and kind. He smiled to himself. Maybe this marriage wasn't just survival anymore. Maybe it was something more. Weeks passed, and life on Gellin 3 started to feel normal again. Jae-Hwan and Nereva continued working together, fixing the old colony and making it stronger. The Virellin threat was always in the back of their minds, but they tried to push it away. They couldn't let fear control them. One morning, A new problem appeared. The power systems were failing again. This time, it was worse than before. The energy source that kept the colony running was starting to collapse. If they didn't fix it, everyone would be without power in just a few days. Jae-hwan knew they didn't have much time. He walked to the control room and found Nereva already working on the problem. Her silver skin glowed in the dim light of the room as she focused on the screen. "We need to replace the core," she said. "It's too damaged to repair." Jae-hwan looked at the schematics. "We don't have a replacement. The closest one is on the other side of the planet." "Then we'll have to make one," Nereva said, her voice firm. "I can modify the old systems to work with the materials we have here." Jae-hwan frowned. "That's risky. If it fails." "It won't fail," Nereva said. "I've done things like this before." Jae-hwan trusted her, but he was still nervous. This was no simple task. The whole colony depended on this repair, but he didn't have time to argue. He nodded. "All right, let's do it." They spent the next few days working together in the colony's old factory. Jae-hwan helped gather materials while Nereva designed the new power core. She used a mix of human tech and alien knowledge, creating something entirely new. As they worked, Jae-hwan couldn't help but notice how much Nereva had changed. She was no longer just a stranger he married out of duty. She was his partner, his equal. She had become someone he respected and cared for, and it wasn't just because of her skills. It was because she was strong, smart, and kind. She didn't let fear stop her. She pushed forward, no matter the danger. On the third day of their work, the power core was finally ready. They moved quickly to install it into the main energy system. Nereva worked with calm precision, while Jae-hwan kept watch. The last part was always the hardest, starting the core without causing an overload. Nereva took a deep breath and flipped the final switch. The room filled with the hum of power. The lights flickered, then stabilized. The systems were back online. "We did it," Jae-hwan said, a smile spreading across his face. Nereva looked at him, her eyes bright. "We did." But just as they were celebrating, the alarm suddenly blared again. Jae-hwan rushed to the control panel. His heart sank when he saw the message. "Another ship. It's landing outside the colony." Nereva's expression turned serious. The Virelans. Jae-hwan felt a wave of panic. He couldn't protect Nereva alone anymore. They had to act fast. "This time, we fight back," he said, grabbing a rifle and handing it to Nereva. "I'm not running." She nodded. "Neither am I." They quickly made their way to the outskirts of the colony, where the ship had landed. They could see the shadows of armored figures stepping out. Virelan soldiers. "Ready?" Jae-hwan asked, his voice low. Nereva nodded. "Always." The two of them hid behind the old colony walls, watching the soldiers move closer. Jae-hwan's hands gripped the rifle tightly. He didn't know how many soldiers there were or how long they could hold out, but he wasn't going to let Nereva fall into their hands again. One of the soldiers stopped and turned. Jae-hwan quickly raised his rifle and fired. The soldier fell, but the others noticed them. The fight was on. Nereva moved quickly, using the alien technology in her suit to send a pulse that knocked out their weapons. The soldiers were disoriented, and that gave Jae-hwan the chance to take them down one by one. It wasn't easy. The Virelans were strong and well-trained, but Jae-hwan and Nereva were a team now. They knew each other's moves, each other's strengths. They fought together as if they had always done so. After what felt like hours, the last soldier fell. The area was silent. The danger had passed for now. Breathing hard, Jae-hwan looked at Nereva. She was covered in dust, but her eyes were calm. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. Nereva smiled. "Yes, together." As they walked back to the colony, Jae-hwan realized something. They had won, not just because of the fight, but because they had grown stronger together. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were living. The days after the battle with the Virelan soldiers were quieter. The colony was still recovering, but for the first time in weeks, Jaehwan and Nereva could breathe easier. The threat was not gone, but it was far away, for now. The Virelans had been forced to retreat, and the colony was safe. Jaehwan found himself thinking more about his life and about Nereva. They had been through so much together, and despite everything, they had become a team. It was more than just survival. They had started to build something real, something that wasn't based on fear. One afternoon, after a long day of repairs, Jaehwan and Nereva sat together outside, watching the sun set over the red desert. The sky was painted with oranges and pinks, and the wind was cool. It was peaceful. Jaehwan turned to Nereva. "You know, I never thought I'd end up here. I thought I'd always be alone, fixing machines and living quietly." Nereva smiled softly. "I know what you mean. I thought I'd be forced to marry someone I didn't love, to live a life without choice." He paused, looking out at the horizon. "But now, I don't feel alone anymore. Not with you here." Nereva's eyes softened. "I feel the same." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Jaehwan realized that what had started as a simple act of protection had turned into something deeper. They were no longer just surviving. They had become a family. Later that evening, they walked through the colony together. People waved at them as they passed. It wasn't just out of politeness. The people respected them now. They had fought for the colony, and they had won. Jaehwan saw the way people looked at Nereva, not with fear, but with curiosity and respect. "Things have changed, haven't they?" Nereva asked as they walked. Jaehwan nodded. "Yes, we've changed." The next day, the colony held a small celebration to thank everyone who had helped defend it. Jaehwan and Nereva were invited, of course. It wasn't a big party, but it was enough to remind everyone that they were stronger together. As they stood in the crowd, Jaehwan looked at Nereva. He saw the way her eyes sparkled when she smiled. She wasn't just the alien woman who had come to him for help. She was someone who had become an important part of his life. Later, after the party, they walked back to their home. Jaehwan stopped in front of the door and turned to Nereva. "I've been thinking," he said slowly. "This marriage, it started as a way to survive. But I don't want it to be just that. I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to build something real, something that lasts." Nereva looked at him, her heart beating a little faster. "What are you saying?" He took a deep breath. "I'm saying that I want us to be more than just a contract. I want us to be a real family. I don't just want to protect you. I want to share a life with you." Her eyes widened. "You mean, you want to stay together?" Jaehwan smiled. "Yes, not just as husband and wife, but as partners. As equals. No more hiding. No more fear. Just us." Nereva's heart swelled with emotion. She had never thought she would find this kind of love, this kind of peace. She had come to Jaehwan for safety, but now she saw something more. She saw a future with him. "I would like that," she said softly. Jaehwan took her hand and gently pulled her into a hug. For the first time since they met, he felt truly at peace. The fight was over. The danger had passed. They had won, but this was just the beginning of something new. A new life, a new family, a new future. Together.